Hello everyone, welcome to Thai Finance. Today we have such an interesting topic. Why is the US dollar getting weaker after the pandemic started? Who is behind all this? Should you be worried right now if you own some US dollars? How much time do you have before the US dollar crashes? Well, then you should pay attention to all the information and key concepts. In the last decade, we have seen that China has played a very important role in this ever-changing world order. So stay tuned and subscribe to the channel. How de-dollarization will shift investments to Asia. So why there is a high demand of US dollars? Well, first of all, this currency has the ability to maintain its value in the form of limited inflation and depreciation. In times of turmoil, we have seen that a lot of fiat currencies, they really suffer. They depreciate a lot, like the Brazilian real, like the Mexican peso, and as well the ruble. Just as an example, it is widely accepted all around the world because of trust. If you travel to any place, I guess they will be interested in accepting your US dollars because it is widely accepted. And the United States financial markets are deep, liquid, and open markets, really. It's so convenient for companies and institutions to use financial markets to hedge against inflation and play with derivatives to earn more money. And so far, no rival currency has shown itself capable of outperforming the dollar on all three counts. So what is the Eurodollar? I think everyone has heard some time about this, but it's not even connected to Europe, and it's something that is happening right now in the world. Eurodollars are essentially all those dollar deposits outside the US banking system. Banks registered abroad can create offshore US dollar loans and derivatives. But this creates US dollar liabilities, but these banks registered outside the USA don't have the ability to issue base money. That means cash, for example. Only the Federal Reserve has that power. So the Eurodollar system creates a mismatch of US dollar liabilities versus US dollar over time. And this leads to an explosive US dollar shortage and a short squeeze every time the global economy goes into recession. That's why the DXY in my other videos that I shown went to the upside in the month of March because there was a lot of demand for US dollars when there is a recession. It is estimated that over 90% of international trade is financed through the Eurodollar market. It is also worth pointing out that the Eurodollar market is almost entirely cashless market. It is for simplicity's sake banks' balance sheets. So this means that if you have a dollar bank account outside the USA, it's basically virtual money, banks' balance sheets, and you are totally dependent on the Federal Reserve and your bank's ability to get that US dollars liquidity. So there is a chronic dollar shortage in the financial markets. Existing dollar financing is only going to continue to be constrained as the dollar appreciates. So a strong dollar means that these financial chronic dollar shortages will remain stable. Here we can see the Russia and China's trade volume from the year 2000 to 2018. You can see that it's on the rise. And actually in 2019, before the pandemic started, it reached an all-time high. So in 2019, the Russia and China trade, the bilateral trade between these two countries increased by 3.4% in 2019, amounting to 110 billion. Here we can see a table with the Chinese export to Russia and the imports from Russia. Here we can see that in just that period, there was an increase of 3.6% from Chinese exports to Russia. There was an increase of 3.2% from imports from Russia, totaling 49.7 billion and 61 billion USD. We can say that it was somehow balanced. And both countries are refocusing on a mutual goal using their own currency instead of the US dollar. And they want to reach 200 billion in trade by 2024. So this means that they are diversifying. Why China and Russia are decoupling from the dollar? Since 2015, approximately 90% of the bilateral transactions between these two countries were conducted in dollars. And they are very far away from the United States. So following the outbreak of the US-China trade war, both Moscow and Beijing consented to move away from the dollar. And replacing the dollar in trade settlements became a necessity to sidestep US sanctions against Russia that started since the Crimean conflict. Any wire transaction that takes place in the world involving US dollars, it is at some point cleared through the US bank. And that means that the US government can tell that bank to freeze certain transactions. And some of those transactions are very important for national interest of China and Russia. So Russia and China are partnering somehow to reduce their dependence on the dollar. And this is increasing their financial dependence. In the first quarter of 2020, the dollar share of trade between Russia and China fell below 50%. This means that throughout the years, the transactions with US dollars fell to 50% in the first quarter of 2020. So here we can see another chart that demonstrates how they are diversifying their trade. Here we can see the percentage of settlements between China and Russia. And here we can see that 46 of those settlements were settled in US dollars. The rest were settled 30% in euros. They got to an all-time high. And 24% were in national currencies, in Russian ruble and the Chinese national currency. And this was also a new high. And this was all according to recent data from Russian central banks. Here we can see the items imported by China from Russia. Here just a few examples in 2018, so you can have an idea of what China wants from Russia. Most of it's just mineral fuels, oil distillation products. So de-dollarization is pushing Europe to lead, because if they're using European currency, what's happening with Europe? So the euro is now the second most used currency in the world, with around 60 countries linking their currencies to the euro in one way or another. But the debt problems in the southern states and in other ones have hardly improved. Actually, they got worse after this pandemic. So the structure of the Eurozone needs synergy, unity, and innovation if they want their currency to lead and become a world reserve currency. But Europe is in an uncomfortable position between the US similar values and their trade interests with China. So Russia and China have a long-term strategy. And one of them is embrace those increased costs and volatility and currency fluctuations by using other currencies than the US dollars to avoid system risks that are rising recently. So the US dollar is right now in a weak position because the system is not working. So they are embracing this cost now. So for the long term, things will change. And they're using gold as hedge against these kind of problems. They have increased their gold reserves. So all of these problems are mitigated by it. They want to sidestep the US sanctions by using their own currency and diversifying. They're basically avoiding all those sanctions, and basically they're being more independent in their transactions. In the long term, they want to increase the regional power through their currency and institutions like the AIIB and making all that Silk Road project. And the question is, should you keep your US dollar or diversify to other currencies? So comment below your plans and what are you gonna do with this? So thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share it, and comment.